Erik ten Hag is staying at Manchester United. Ineos have shown some faith in him. Now it is time for him to repay that. United have to improve on the football pitch. From a tactical point of view, things have to be better from now on from Erik ten Hag. The good thing is, I actually think United have the potential to really thrive next season should they do the right business this summer and should Ten Hag make the right tactical tweaks. Starting off with goal kicks. I believe nearly all of us are fed up of seeing us being a side that plays long from the goalkeeper. In fact, Onana had the 8th most long passes from goalkeepers in the Premier League last season. We don't want to see that so much. It can still be used occasionally. Occasionally Onana can still go long. And when we do that, the important thing is going to be getting energy in the middle of the pitch. Players that can win the second ball and play from there. I want to see that still sometimes, but nowhere near as often. Instead, what I want to see is United looking to play out from the back using one of two systems. Either a fairly basic 2-4 structure, or a 3-4 you could call it if you use Onana as well. So the two centre-backs splitting either side of the goalkeeper, the two full-backs out wide, and then Kobbie Mainoo and a new midfielder dropping deep into these areas. Now, this would actually give United a base of some really good technicians. Onana is very good on the ball, so is Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, Kobbie Mainoo and Diogo Dalot are all excellent in the first phase. If we then added a midfielder who doesn't even have to be excellent, just has to be comfortable, United could really improve in this area, but also a ball-playing right centre-back. Now, a ball-playing right centre-back could also be useful for a different system as well, and it's a slightly more complex one, but it has a higher ceiling in terms of what it can go on to achieve. And that is a system where on goal kicks, Onana is essentially used as one of the centre-backs. So Onana splits to the left, the right centre-back drops deep, and Lisandro Martinez is given the freedom and the licence to step into midfield, again only on goal kicks, to allow us to play out from the back. Now, what is actually the benefit of doing this? Well, because Onana is centre-back, one of our centre-backs is midfield, it means that our midfielder can go higher. And the effect of that is we can pin the opposition back. If we push 5 players really high up the pitch, the opposition simply won't be able to push as many men forward to press us. Which means, again, with the technical quality of these players, United could play out from the back. I think this is something United have to do next season, and I am really expecting that change from Erik ten Hag. I do think we will see more of this approach. I'm also expecting some slight tweaks as we move further through the pitch as well. However, there are also some things which should be kept from last season. For example, towards the end of the season, we saw United often setting up in a 2-4 shape, having 2 presences in midfield. Often Sofian Amrabat, for example, Kobbie Mainoo has been in there as well, Casemiro at times. Play with 2 players in midfield. Please and thank you, Erik ten Hag. He done it towards the end of the season, and hopefully he has learned his lesson there. That is what he should continue to do. Now, from here, there's a bit of flexibility, and I want that from Ten Hag. I want him to be a manager who kind of changes things rather than always using this 2-4 shape. It is good to have rotations, and United are very capable and will be very capable next season of at times switching to a back 3. Particularly if Luke Shaw plays a little bit deeper, tucks into the back 3 like this, then we have 2 central midfielders here, and our right back, Diogo Dalot of course, is given the licence to go further forward, but it can also rotate the other way as well. We could see Luke Shaw given a licence to attack, Lisandro Martinez moves to the left, the right centre-back comes across, and Dalot now plays deeper. This will be important for Erik ten Hag. This will be absolutely key. He is a manager who wants rotations. The key thing for me personally is rotations are absolutely fine. However, what is key is that we are always occupying the same zones. We need to have the same areas occupied. So I am more than fine with, let's look at the left-hand side, setting up like this. Left back high, left winger inside, midfielder deep. But also at times, let's have Garnacho rotate out wide, Kobbie Mainoo push further forward, and someone come inside into these areas. Again, I'm more than okay with that. Ten Hag has done it a lot. He is very keen on rotations. The important thing is that he doesn't do it too much. He doesn't take it to the extreme. For example, it wouldn't be optimal for Luke Shaw to suddenly start popping up here, Kobbie Mainoo out wide and Garnacho deep in midfield, right? That's taking the rotations too far. It doesn't really make sense. But certainly rotations in the wide areas, it can work as long as United realise, to what extent they're able to do it. And I think it is more likely anyway down the right-hand side, allowing United to play in this way. Now, the other thing you will notice, which is a slight change from what we saw at times last season, is Kobbie Mainoo and another midfielder playing deep in front of the defence. Last season, we saw quite a lot of Diogo Dalot inverting into midfield, particularly in the early months of the year. I don't think we're going to see that next season. I think Dalot will be given this wider role, so there will be more emphasis on our two midfielders. Of course, we know what Kobbie Mainoo is going to bring. The player alongside him needs to be comfortable on the ball. I'm not looking for a massively high volume player. I would like Kobbie to become that. But this player needs to be comfortable on the ball. They need to be able to use a long range passing, to bring the wingers into play, to bring the wide players into things. But in general, I just want them to be calm and confident and composed on the ball. It doesn't have to be anything overly extravagant, just safe on the ball, just a solid level in possession. That is what United need here. Because for me, one thing that Ten Hag has to change next season is we have to be less direct. I am still okay with vertical football. I am still okay with getting the ball forward quickly at times because I think the Old Trafford crowd want that. But not for the sake of it. What we saw at times last season was the ball would get hoiked forward into kind of hopeless areas and United would lose possession. We can't have that. These two players need to have the first thought being, let's play it safe, let's keep the ball. Then if they want to, then get their head up and look for more extravagant play. That needs to be the aim for Manchester United. This sort of shape, or the 2-4 shape, both are absolutely fine, and we will probably see both. But I want to see rotations in these areas, not too much, but I also want to see retention as well. Now, as we move towards the final third of the pitch and these attacking zones, I actually think it's fairly obvious what we are going to see from Ten Hag and Manchester United next season, and that is that usage of minimum width. We have covered that before. There's videos on the channel if you want to go check them out. But minimum width is essentially, let's say the player on the left-hand side has the ball, the players on the right are going to come over to condense the pitch. And of course, the benefit of this is, should you lose possession, you have players in close proximity who are able to quickly close the ball down and get the ball back for their side. But in possession, you have players close to each other. You can see quick interlinking play. If you kind of associate it with that quick interchanging football, quick two-touch play, twists and turns in tight areas, going into the feet of the striker, Bruno Fernandes going past them, the ball going backwards, then being slipped through. This is what you get with minimum width. Lots of players really close to each other in the final third of the pitch. The other thing you get is overloads and the ability to find pockets of space, but also to create isolations. For example, let's say the ball is on the right-hand side. We'll start over on this side of the pitch, and Dalot's got the ball, meaning that the other side is going to come a little more narrow, like so. The minimum width is being applied to the right-hand side of the attack. Now, what United will look to do next season at times is get the ball in these areas, but then rather than being direct, they will look to almost suck the opposition over to this side, and then eventually go backwards and work the ball to the far side with someone like Garnacho. Now, from here, here's in a 1 versus 1 situation. The key for United will be to turn that to a 2v2 or a 2v1. That could come from Luke Shaw now getting on the overlap. It could be from Bruno Fernandes getting on the overlap. The key here is actually making the right decision, because this exact pattern is something we have seen this season. United have been really good at getting into these areas. The problems have been the decisions in the final third, and that isn't actually the fault of Erik ten Hag. This is where the players need to improve. So to quickly recap, I'm thinking the first phase we are going to see a side which plays out from the back with a greater regularity, more frequently playing out from the back. In the middle third, I think we're going to see a side which rotates, and that will be really difficult for the opposition to predict. The key will be to not rotate too much. We want the right players in the right position still, but also not to move the ball too quickly. And then in the final third, we are looking at using minimum width, getting our players really close to each other, creating 1v1 situations, 2v2 situations, and also 3 versus 3 situations. The question is, if that is what Ten Hag wants to do tactically, how can he do it? What does he actually need in terms of players? Obviously, you can see I'm looking at a right winger, a right-sided central midfielder, and a right-sided centre-back, which could come into the side. But I think the most important thing, rather than those 3 positions, is actually the team as a whole in general. This team needs to be technically strong. And that is the most important thing with all 3 things that Erik ten Hag is trying to do. If you're trying to play out in the first phase, you have to be good technically on the ball. If you want to control possession in the middle phase, you have to be composed, but again, strong technically. You have to be able to play the ball with both feet to get out of tricky situations. United need technical players in the middle of the pitch. And then as we move more towards the final third, again, we need players who are technical, able to operate in tight spaces, close to each other. Again, that quick 2-touch football. We need that in the final third, but also better decision making. That is the sort of thing that United should be looking for in the transfer market in terms of what United want to do in possession next season. I think if it's done properly and given time and we get a bit of luck with injuries, we actually could be really good in this area next year. I think perhaps the bigger question for me personally surrounding Ten Hag isn't what he's going to do on the ball. I think he will get us playing a good brand of football. The bigger question mark for me comes defensively. because at Ajax there were issues defensively, and at United there have been ever since he came in. Can he improve that side of the game? That will be the key, because it doesn't matter how good you are on the ball or how good your principles are. If you are leaky defensively, you're always going to have trouble. For example, if you can't play with intensity out of possession, you're not going to win the ball back, which means you then can't show your in-possession principles. Right, so that is something that Ten Hag will need to get right next season. And the counter-press is a key thing for that. Minimum width is, again, an approach United will use. And for most teams, that should allow United to quickly win the ball back when they lose it. That hasn't been the case for United in recent times. And I actually don't think that is massively a tactical issue, more of a personnel issue. The cognitive reaction of these players needs to be different to what it has been. And that's something which will be quite difficult for Erik Ten Hag to work on. So what do I actually mean by that, to kind of make it a bit simpler? Basically, when United lose the ball, we almost have this split second where we go, god damn it, we lost the ball. All right, now we need to win it back. If you take that long against good teams, you've already been ripped to shreds. It has to be, we lose the ball, okay, bam, we're straight on. You've got to lock straight on. That is what United need to change, and that is probably Erik Ten Hag's biggest challenge this summer. Changing the cognitive response of these players when we lose possession. It has to improve. Our players need that instinct of we lose the ball, we go as a team to try and win it back. Because if you have some of them doing it, some of them not, we've seen the gaps that leaves. So United have to get better in that area. They also have to get better at the sustained press as well, and this is more of a tactical thing in my opinion. So Manchester United and the high press was a big talking point from last season. What to do when the opposition have the ball at goal kicks and are looking to play from the back. For large parts of the season, it was pretty terrible from Ten Hag. However, towards the end of the season, I think he did stumble upon a better solution to our problems. A solution which suits our players. And that is to use Bruno Fernandes moving into a front two rather than one of the wingers. You see, for large parts of last season, a winger would come inside and then the fullback has this decision of whether or not to go. If we kind of make it a bit more simple, use Bruno Fernandes in this area, what it does is two things really. First of all, it puts emphasis on this box in the middle, the core of the team needing to be the intense players, the players who have to press hard but also track their runners. So that is the first thing which this does, and this suits United. We have Bruno Fernandes there for that, we have Rasmus Højlund, and probably the one thing you need to add is a big physical player who can almost cover the job of two players at times. You know, jumping from pressing this player to suddenly pressing this player. That's what United will need in that area. But, you know, putting that emphasis on intensity in the core of the pitch is something which will suit United. It will also suit our wingers as well. Again, last season there was this big job for the wingers constantly coming inside to cover two players. In this sort of system, they are simply required to cover one player. They just have to deal with the fullback. And that is a lot simpler. For players like Marcus Rashford, for Garnacho, for Anthony, for Ahmad, whoever it may be next season, it is much simpler for them to track this. Ten Hag done it towards the end of last season, and I think he needs to do it again next year. The other benefit is, though, is that it doesn't expose our back four. We can go man for man at the back, across the back line. And that can suit Manchester United, should we make the right signing at right centre-back. And this is why I don't want a right centre-back who spends all the time covering in behind. I want someone who is aggressive and wants to defend 1 versus 1. Because that will really suit Erik Ten Hag's pressing approach. And the approach we saw towards the end of last season. Again, if Ten Hag does this, we have a massive chance of improving next year from a defensive point of view. We will be much more solid because we will press cohesively as a team rather than some players going, some not. Again, we all saw how badly that went. I do think defensively we will improve next season should we see the right signings coming to the club and should Erik Ten Hag stick to this iteration, if you like, of the 4-4-2 press, which at times becomes a diamond. Ten Hag needs to stick with that. So I guess basically what I'm saying is I've got question marks over Ten Hag. Absolutely I have. And I have done for a while now. However, should he apply some of the principles which we saw throughout last season and also towards the end of last season, but also then add some tweaks in? You know, that greater emphasis on playing the ball out from the back. That greater emphasis on, at times, keeping the ball a little bit safer. All of which, by the way, comes with new signings coming into the club. Should Ten Hag do that, I think you will see us improve drastically in possession. Out of possession still remains my biggest question, but I do think we have seen a structure that could work. And it's for those reasons, I think United could kick on next season if this summer goes well. It's a big if. Of course, it might go the other way. It might go horribly wrong and United might be poor again next season. Hopefully not. I think United have a chance to thrive next year. to thrive next year. I don't want too much pressure on Ten Hag. People are saying it's his third year now. People are saying it's not his third year because it's his first year under good ownership. I see it kind of, to me, I'm judging him as though he's in his second season. Because he knows the players now. You know, this isn't his first year with the club. He knows all the players. He knows their strengths and weaknesses. So, it's second season. I'm expecting progress. I'm expecting to see a progression in the way that we play football. You know, a more clearer outline of what we want to do on and off the ball. And then hopefully, again, maybe a cup or something like that, top 4 football. Those are kind of my expectations for next season, my demands, if you like, for Erik ten Hag. But the main thing is this improved football, which we have been talking about. But let me know what you want to see in the comments down below. Apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.